All right, hey guys, how you guys doing? This is episode 10, I believe, with Harm's Way. How you guys
So
doing? You guys good?
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Doing all right.
Let's start
doing
it
good
off.
over here.
Let's start it off appropriately. What's the best pizza in Chicago?
This is a question that, or an answer rather, that's changed for me over the years. Because like growing up, we were all Lou Malnati's guys. That was like the standard deep dish, and then we discovered Pequot's, and that's like the heavy hitter deep dish. But I've really turned into a thin crust guy over the last couple of years. I don't know what it is.
What is
If I'm
wrong?
gonna get pizza, I get like extra thin, crispy ass pizza.
Get out of Chicago. What is wrong?
Yeah,
James, tell him.
Yeah,
Tell him.
I mean, no, I agree. I mean, if we're going deep dish, obviously, I mean, I would still, I give Lou's number one, probably because it's just like the classic for me, and it's most
Yeah.
accessible. But obviously, we all love Pequot too. But I'm with you. Like, I rarely ever eat deep dish. Mostly just like bar thin
Yep.
pizza, just better. I don't know. I know Chris. I don't know. You might. I think. I mean, I know Chris loves thin too. So I don't know.
yeah. I mean, for me, Pequod's reigns supreme. That's my go-to if I'm going to get deep dish. But the accessibility factor is one. Lou's is just like a chain that's taken over the city and the surrounding suburbs, so it's pretty easy to get. But primarily, I'm the same. It's thin crust for me if I'm going to go for pizza. Like with deep dish, you literally got to like schedule it kind of like a couple weeks out and just put it on your calendar. Just prepare for it because
Physically,
it's an intense experience.
Well-
But like it's funny because I think this is a contentious topic in Chicago. Like you go down south and like they'll tell you that thin is like the true Chicago style pizza. You go up north and it's a little bit different. But Chicago's kind of known for deep dish. But I think a lot of locals will argue that thin crust is actually kind of like true to Chicago's history.
well, what a
It's
shame.
actually funny because, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my dad grew up in Chicago, and he never had deep dish pizza until he was in like his 40s. So
That's
like,
crazy.
Same with my
if that
dad.
shows
Yep.
you anything.
That's crazy. Well, I don't live in Chicago, but whenever I do go, you guys brought me on to Pequod's, and I fucking miss Pequod's.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can come
Yes.
back. We didn't introduce you guys, so how about you guys introduce yourself and what you do in the band and where you're from? We'll start with whoever wants to start off. Who are you?
Go ahead, James.
Hi, I'm James Pliggy, the vocalist of Harm's Way. Clearly inferior in technology, sitting in my car. But
Oh man.
Chris and I play drums in the band, and I'm probably the biggest pain in the ass in the band too.
I'm asking about that.
I'm Bo. I play guitar. I am far superior in technology and production setup to James. But it should be noted too that we're missing our two other guys. They live in Milwaukee, and love them, miss them, wish they were here.
Yeah.
But I think organizing this kind of thing with two more calls on top of ours would have been a little crazy.
That would have been too many screens on one screen, you know?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
me, Chris, and
Yeah.
James have been in the band since the beginning. So
So you guys are the original members, correct?
correct.
the
Yeah.
OGs.
The OGs. Awesome. Well, I ask this every single time because it's it's obviously different story for everybody. Mostly where you're coming from. How'd you guys get involved in music and more in particular hardcore? How'd you guys get involved?
I got involved literally all because of Chris, like 100%. He and I was into guitar playing, and like that was kind of it. That was kind of the catalyst to he and I begin talking. He played drums, had a drum set in his garage, and I think we were in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
so it was like around then. But then like literally, dude, you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. I was really into Blink-182. And Blink-182 had a home video, like cassette tape. It was just like a behind the scenes, like tour tape, right? And there's a part where Tom DeLonge like just lists off all their bands, and it's like Minor Threat, Black Flag, Bad Brains, Descendants. Like he's just like listing off all these bands, and I like memorized that, and then try to find those bands and figure out like which of those bands, you know, that I would be into. So it was like that, and then us playing music, you being into AFI and the Misfits and stuff. Like that was like our catalyst.
Yeah. I was into like punk through like my brother got me into Bad Brains, Descendants, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, you name it. And I was a year older than Bo, and he was actually in our middle school. He was in like this for the talent show. Bo like played in this Blink-182 cover band, and
Kick Me, baby. We were called Kick Me.
And I watched them play. I was like, man, their drummer really sucks.
Jimmy DiBenedetto.
Yeah, I was like, I need to join this band and like enlighten these kids. And I remember talking to them, and I just like usurped the position of drummer in the band, I think, and got all of you guys into what I thought to be real punk and real hardcore.
Yeah, it's true.
What about you, James?
So for me, I kind of had like a friend who also got me into just like music I didn't really know about, because my dad, he was always into like metal and rock. So, he would always play like Zeppelin, Metallica, Sabbath, all those things. So, I always had like a connection to the heavy music. And then my friend Nick Donahue, shout out to him. He just started getting into punk music. And at the time it was, Fat Record stuff, NoFX, AFI, Gutter Mouth, earlier Green Day, Offspring, all that stuff. And he actually took me to a show, and it's kind of ironic because that show, Caution from Weekend Nachos, played that show. Obviously, 5 or 6 years before I even met him, because he was a freshman in high school, and it was a small record shop. And it's funny because Nick had to leave because he had CCD class, I remember. And I remember it was just like, it's just kind of funny because obviously, thinking about going to learn about religion while you're like at a punk show seems really, really funny at this point. But, and then obviously like that just kind of progressed. Like, there used to be a record store in Naperville where I live. And it was just some guy's house, and he had like, for some reason, got in connection with a local skateboarding shop, which is called RQ. And so he just asked people what they wanted him to carry in his record store. So he just started carrying like all this punk music and hardcore. And I just remember going there, and he had like Youth of Today shirts, Warzone shirts. And that's basically where I started to get all my hardcore CDs. And basically that just grew from there. Then I met these guys when I was 18, which is kind of hard to believe.
I was going to say,
that long.
Do you remember the first time we saw James? That's another John Caution like tie-in into our story.
Yeah, the first time I met James was at went to see Stand and Fight, and Down to Nothing. Yeah, at the Darien Sportsplex. And Caution, also from Weekend Nachos,
and original Harm's Way bass player.
And the original Harm's Way bass player. He was like taking me around and introducing me to a bunch of people. And I remember him introducing me to James. Like, yeah, this is James. We call him Little Wrench. Wrench is in like the singer of 10 Yard Fight and Stand and Fight. And I was like, oh, hey, what's up, man?
Dude, and it's funny because like James, it sounds so silly to say now that we've been friends for so long, but like I remember that moment so well. I remember what you were wearing. You're wearing a gray Warzone shirt. And it was just like, I just like remember that, you know what I mean? And I remember I was 15. I couldn't drive yet because Kurt drove us to the show.
Yeah.
So
question: when you guys first met James, was he ripped as he is now?
No, it'd be pretty fucked up if there was a 17, 18-year-old kid as big as he is now. But he was big. Definitely bigger than us.
Yeah, he was big for sure.
How long had you been lifting at that point, James? When you were like 18?
I had been probably two years seriously at that point.
Yeah.
So, because I started that when I was like 16. But it's funny because I also remember that show actually, and like just like hearing it, just like talking about it, it's like that was fucking 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
Dude, almost more because if I couldn't drive and I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a while ago, man. It was crazy. I got my first pair of contacts that day. Like I remember weird shit about that day. You know what I mean? I bought the Edge hoodie from Wrench. I still have it. It's a size youth large, but I still have it.
Different era.
Yeah.
So that leads me to ask, like, you guys obviously known each other for quite a amount of time, but prior to Harm's Way, I believe you guys all played in Convicted together, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So as far as like the dynamic of a band, that like the three of you have been doing this together for so long, how is that dynamic of being in a band together? Has there ever been times where there's kind of like turmoil between the three of you, or disagreements? And I ask this because my band is in the exact same. We've all been in the same band together for 16 years, actually. Before Sabala, we've been in the same band together. So it's like they're literally my brothers. I fucking hate them.
Chris and I almost got into an actual fist fight on the Cannibal Corpse tour in Georgia.
Yeah.
Like for real, which I think is rare for us. We rarely get like that heated.
Yeah.
But like, of course, Convicted actually came from the ashes of another band we were all in called Few and the Proud. Chris and James were all in that too. Caution was in that too. And then before that, Chris and I were in a youth crew band called Double Cross that like, because of that band, we met with James and Caution, and it was like, oh, we should do a band that sounds like Outburst and like Breakdown, in 2003 or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And there's certainly been times. Convicted didn't really do all that much as far as like touring and stuff goes. Unfortunately, I happened to see somebody on Instagram today posted one of our shows, like a Sub T show, and I like forgot about the song. It was like, oh shit, that's actually pretty good. But Convicted didn't really do all that much. Neither did Few and the Proud, and Harm's Way, kind of unfortunately at the expense to Convicted. At the same time, Harm's Way kind of started to take off and get some steam. Convicted just didn't really as much, you know.
Yeah.
So for you, James, being in the same band with the same dudes for so long, how's that growth been over the years for you?
I mean, honestly, I mean, we could all agree. I mean, you guys are obviously basically like my family. I never had brothers growing up, so it's just like, that's how I treat, Chris, Bo, and obviously, Casey and Nick have recently joined the family in the last 5 years, but I mean, I just think when you've been writing music for that long, I think, it can have positive and negative effects. Obviously we wrote a lot of records together, but that also means that, sometimes our ideas get a little tapped out. So it was nice to bring in some new people in the writing process, especially for the last record. But I think as far as like, understanding one another and, getting along with one another on tour and, becoming closer and closer, I don't think that can be replicated really by any other job or anything like that. I think, being in a band with the same group of people for a long time is like a very unique experience, because it's basically like living with people forever, and then you get to argue about, where you're going to eat, or, when people wake up, or, pissing on the floor in the hotel room on accident, or on purpose. I don't know. But,
it's funny because it's like it's a true expression of your guys' bond as like humans and as like friends and as a band. I always think about it. I'm like, when I think of Harm's Way, because we've known you guys for so long and been friends with each other for so long. When I think like the dynamic of you guys, it's like we see us and you guys, but like you guys are the straight edge version of us.
Dude, yes.
So
Yeah.
like we've argued as a band, and like I think we've actually fist fought multiple times. But like it's just the dynamic is like it's there, the friendship's there, and it's pretty cool to see that in a band that like not only that I admire and love, but like to see that bond between you guys. It was like it's cool to see that because there's very few and far between that you see that in bands,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see that. As a band, what has been your favorite show that you guys have ever played? Either collectively, or what's your favorite show one by one?
I would probably I don't know. Either the post-human record release because it was sold out. That's a cool feeling, and it was like an exciting time. We did the headliner. The whole headliner was sick on post-human, and then we were home for like a week or whatever, and then did the Chicago show, and it was really good. And like, for me personally, like my mom was there and she brought my dad. My dad had never seen us play before, so it was like a surprise. And like, so personally, that was really cool. And then honorable mention to the last Australian tour. That whole tour was like incredible.
Yeah.
So those would have to be my answers.
Yeah. I think I think the record release show for sure. Because to be honest, Chicago, obviously our hometown, but has never really felt like our hometown, like up until recently in terms of like shows. It's funny, we would joke around that like Southern California felt more like a local show for us. Thanks, Nate. Than like playing Chicago, right? Like people would just kind of turn, I don't know, just like kind of turn themselves on us in Chicago pretty frequently. And obviously that's like no diss on Chicago. I think it just took us a minute to catch on here, but I think
it's a generational thing. I think.
What were you saying, Nate?
It's because of the fact that California is better and superior.
I mean, there's no argument there. Yeah, I would say the record release show just because it was like, oh shit, like this paid off, right?
Yeah.
Family and friends were there. It just was a good feeling. And then I'd also say the Newcastle show on the last Australia show or tour. It was amazing.
Nate, like you know us, like we're not really like a sellout show band. You know what I mean? Like we get good, we definitely draw, but we don't like sell out. We played like 6 shows, I think, on that Australian tour. One was a fest. One was like an after show, so it kind of doesn't really count. But I think of the 5, 4 of them were sold out.
That's awesome.
And like it was fucking awesome. And again, we're on post-human. It has still just come out, so it was like we got all this energy, and it was a lot of fun, and that was really good.
Yeah.
And then, dude, the fucking sorry, James, but the Code Orange Knock Loose Harm's Way Vein surprise show because the fest in Chicago got rained out. We went to the Metro, no barricade. Its doors were at 11 p.m. 900 kids showed up with a 5-hour notice. Like that was insane.
That was amazing.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah. I would say in the last like 2 years are probably the collection of all my favorite Harm's Way shows.
Yeah.
Like the one that sticks out for me is that Ohio Fest. I can't remember what the fest was called, but remember we headlined the
Snowed
fest.
in,
like,
yeah.
When I almost broke my arm, I stage dove. Somebody stage dove on my arm. I don't think my elbow is healed from that, by the way. But what's funny about that was just like so unexpected to me. That was like 600 or 700 people in like a packed room. I felt like I was like, why are we headlining this thing? No one's gonna care. And then like, it felt like such a foreign show because so many people were stage diving, like actual pile-on sing-alongs, which never happens. That show to me was very wild. And then I guess an honorable mention for me would be the Warped Tour home Chicago show for like similar reasons.
Good too.
Yeah,
that was really good.
That was awesome because Warped Tour was really cool and gave us a like prime time spot because we were at home that day. We played at like 1:30 or something, like a prime, because the times rotate every day. All of our family was there. All of our friends were there. It was pouring rain, but there was like, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people watching us. And it was like, it was cool because we said like, we're from Chicago, we're home. And people were like, yeah! Like it was like a whole thing, that was, I almost forgot about that. You're right, James. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's awesome.
I just remember playing and looking to my left and seeing my dad and Hans on the same stage together, and I'm just like, this feels right.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would also, while we're on the subject, I would say, unfortunately, Chris wasn't there, but when we played Hellfest, that was also a very unique experience because I felt like we were treated like so well. Like I'd never been treated that well. Even though like we opened at like 12, we're getting fucking buffets, like steak buffet. They're treating free massage, haircut. Like,
That's Europe, dude.
Yeah.
like
Ultimate
living
hospitality. I love it. So obviously, we're doing this Q&As and interviews and interactions through, via Zoom or, whatever we're doing. We can't do a live show because of, COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're going through. It seems to affect people, businesses, companies very differently. But for musicians and people in the music industry, it's put a halt to our lives. And it's, for some people, it's very difficult. For some people, again, everybody's dealing with it differently. As a band, how's it affected you guys as a band and personally?
Mm-hmm.
As a band, we were in a pretty good spot, admittedly.
Yeah.
We didn't have, like our record cycle's kind of done. This is the year that we're writing the next one. And we knew that from the end of last year. So we were very fortunate, and I felt grateful to be in the position that we've been in, because there's a lot of bands riding out Code Orange, the Acacia Strain, even Knocked Loose. They only got a year out of their sophomore record. That was like a huge deal for them. And I feel like we squeezed a lot out of Posthuman. We toured a lot on it. So we were okay as a band, I think. And then we can also say that our only show that we played this year was a Valentine's Day show with Lamb of God.
Yeah.
Which is pretty insane.
Yeah.
But personally, I don't know about you guys, I'm losing my fucking mind. Not having a tour on the horizon. We haven't not had a tour to look forward to since we were literally teenagers, 15, 16.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm losing it. Clearly, I'm sitting in a room that I painted green and with like homemade lights and shit. I'm like losing it. You know what I mean? So
how's it for the rest of you guys?
Yeah, I would say for me, obviously it's definitely been a challenge. Obviously my other job is teaching, so like I haven't really had a chance to like work since March. And actually before that, because I went on vacation, obviously not knowing this would happen. So I haven't, worked since February. So obviously, we had a few tours planned at the end of summer, and, those obviously were canceled. So like, that's one part of the challenge, obviously financially. But I think writing a new record has been obviously challenging, not being able to meet up in person. We did a really good job writing music through Zoom for maybe the first 2 to 3 months. But it's been tough because, it's hard to trust, meeting together. And, if one person in the band is not, feeling it or not, unsure about, getting together, then it kind of, there's nothing you can do. You can't just like, write music with 3 people. You got to make sure everyone's involved. So I think that's been another challenge for sure. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing for me is not knowing when it's going to end.
Yeah.
When, because for me, trying to plan out the next year, it's like, we're supposed to, do the tour we were supposed to do last year with Madball in Europe and Knock Loose, but that could easily be canceled as well. It's supposed to be in February.
Yeah.
So like just not knowing like when we're gonna be able to tour again, when we're gonna be able to record, it's just, because like both said, we've always had like a timeline of what's next, and I think just like the uncertainty right now is pretty challenging for me.
Yeah, I totally understand. How's this going for you, Chris?
I mean, just to like kind of echo what's kind of already been said, it's just, I think the lifestyle change has been a bit of a struggle, not having that tour to look forward to, or, that studio time to look forward to has sucked. And also like not seeing these guys in person for as long as it's been, like obviously Bill and I live down the street from one another. So it's just a bike ride away to kind of come here, but to all be in the same room, it's been forever. And that's like truly soul sucking and really sucks some days. Right. I've been on the more fortunate ends of things, as a clinical social worker and, psychotherapist, like my work hasn't stopped. If anything, it's only increased because this pandemic has put so many people in crisis from the lack of certainty around the future. Right. So if anything, it's, all my work is kind of skyrocketed, but I don't necessarily have the balance that I had with like music and stuff of that nature before. So, you know, like some days are definitely harder than others,
Yeah.
you know, for me. And obviously like, you know, it sucks for the music industry as a whole. And that's really hard to see, you know, from, you know, fellow bands to people who we know that are doing behind the scene stuff with merch and, you know, stage hands and production and all that stuff. You know, it's obviously taking a toll on so many people as an industry, right? And that's really hard to see, you know, and just like kind of twiddling our thumbs, just waiting and hoping that eventually like some sense of normalcy will come out of this is just obviously pretty fucking hard day and day, you know. So
Yeah. I mean, based on your work, you know, you're based on your work and what you do for a living. What do you recommend for your peers and friends and people dealing with this certain, uncertainty? And I ask that simply because, I I work full time in the music industry. I tour full time.
right.
This is beyond playing in the band. So I go days through where I wake up kind of distressed and like kind of depressed in a sense, and then I start going into different motions. Like, all right, I'm going to get up and do something, work out. And, it goes through motions. And I've talked to many people who are musicians who play in bands, and we all like, we have a week where we're like, cool, we're working out every day, we're staying productive, and whatever happens, happens. But then there's those days off that are like, fuck, what's gonna happen? And for me personally, I'm like, okay, doing these live stream Q&As, not simply as a hobby to stay interactive with friends and peers, but on the backside, I'm like, okay, I need to reinvent the wheels of what I'm gonna do with my life and career. And you know, what do you say to people that are like having those emotions, like mostly your friends and even more on a personal level, your bandmates?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a collective experience happening right now,
Yeah.
right, where people are kind of in existential crisis in so many ways because of what's happening, you know. And I think the more that we can kind of like talk about it and lean into one another to kind of share that collective experience, the better, you know. And I think like one thing that's been incredible to see is just the evolution and how people are adapting, especially in the music industry, to try to still kind of like carry out this art form, right? You know, you're a prime example of that, right? And I think we're seeing it with like our peers too, who are doing, live streams, live sets, stuff of that nature, but at the end of the day, it's hard to kind of will yourself out of bed to like do that stuff when there is this lingering uncertainty, So I think like first and foremost, people got to get the support they need. They got to talk. They got to be able to lean into one another, which I know can be easier said than done. But that's like my, my biggest thing, right? Is just people finding support, whether it be through a support group or an individual therapist or just their next door neighbor, just kind of, which I know is again kind of hard when we're all kind of under lockdown, but if you could talk, if you can lean into one another, I think this shared suffering that a lot of people are going through can be a much easier pill to swallow, right? And just finding ways to continue to evolve and adapt under these circumstances to kind of find support, to kind of deliver your art, to stay creative, right? Is kind of a way out of the hell that we're currently in, or at least a way to kind of stop the bleeding until we can all kind of get out of where we're at, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope our peers and friends are doing well, mostly during these crazy times. Obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's been an uprising, or a very rightfully so uprising, in the Black Lives Matter movement, and there seems to be a political divide amongst our country. And from an outsider's perspective of the media and what you see, it seems like Chicago's in like some constant type of turmoil. Is that something that you guys noticed, or is it like something that you don't really cross paths with, or how's it affected your guys' community and city specifically? Because from an outside perspective, it looks like there's something constantly going on in Chicago, and with everything going on in the world. Are you guys witnesses to that, or no?
I went to one protest that I felt like I wanted to go to, and it was a cool thing to like be a part of. But I think it is important to know. And like I say like that I went to one, almost at pointing that it's like shitty of me to have only gone to one. Like I'm not saying it's like, oh, I went to one, you know. There have been protests every single day ever since everything kicked off. On a
Is there still
personal level,
protests going on?
I'm sorry?
Is there still protests going on?
Every
Mhm.
single day.
Yeah.
And you know, and it comes in, there's like waves of violence or whatever you want to call it, and you know, things going on. They raise the bridges to downtown, so people, there's like a physical barrier to getting into the loop, getting downtown, and sometimes people get stuck over there, and like there's like kind of crazy stories and stuff. On a personal level, like I live in a kind of a happening area, and all along Chicago Avenue, it's all boarded up right now again because stuff kicked off a couple weeks ago again. The Marianos is like all boarded up. So like there's things that happen, and you know, you see them, you notice them. Man, I don't know, when everything first started happening, right after George Floyd died. I was frightened. Like I was scared to be where we were, because like who knows, man? Like this could be the start of like a whole fucking thing. And you know, like I said, I live in like kind of a happening area, and Division's right there, Chicago's right there, you know. And they were like cutting the power, like the lights were all off and shit was getting boarded up, and you know, it was scary. But then at the same time, it's like, well, aside from like the chaos, like I'm behind this movement. Like what can I do? You know, how can I help? What can we do as a band? Like you know, and that's kind of what I've at least that's the silver lining for me, is like it kind of gets gears rolling, and like, okay, personal money, what can you do? I did a Twitch stream where I was able to donate a few $100s and do stuff. We as a band put out a shirt, we donated everything. We did a test press raffle, and we donated, you know, it's like, and we were one of what, dozens of other bands that did the same thing. That kind of solidarity that came out of that, and seeing the scene as a whole kind of go, you know what, like everyone's hurting right now, no one's touring, no one's making money, let's all do something and make a very small sacrifice of financial means and donate it, and hopefully to go to a cause that's going to benefit what this movement is all about. And like, to me, that was like amazing. Like that's a beautiful thing, kind of however you want to cut it.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. It definitely is. It's cool to see all these bands come together, and like it seems like, you know, the alternative world, or hardcore, punk, metal, whatever you want to call it, the alternative world has grasped the Black Lives Matter movement and embraced it, and has been very supportive of it. So it's really cool to see you guys do that as well, you know. And yeah, like I asked because, you know, from an outside perspective, it seems like Chicago is kind of crazy right now. Here in California, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's this shit's been happening for far too long. You know, it's just now there's more eyes and ears on it in places that, or from places that, you know, weren't necessarily paying attention, right? But it is, you know, it is, the fight continues each and every day. You know, some of it's going to get more, more coverage than others, and obviously certain narratives are going to get kind of spun on it. But yeah, you know, the fight continues, and you know, it's just, you just hope that, obviously, like, yeah, there've been some silver linings in our community, specifically like, you know, the punk, hardcore, independent music world, kind of through this process. You just hope that it kind of carries on, and it's not just you know, a flash in the pan, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. James, has been crazy or weird for you this whole, you know, this whole year, it's felt like I'm in a fucking movie, you know. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I guess for me, I don't live in a city, so I can't like speak, you know, directly on that. But obviously, you know, from everything that I've, you know, been a part of, and just seeing the hardcore community and metal community come together to really stand up against something like that, I think it's, to me, that's really what, you know, music is all about, right? It's like, you know, especially hardcore claims to have all these, you know, different make itself different from other genres of music. And I think that's what, when it comes down to it, that's what separates us from, metal bands, is that, our community, a lot of times is going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to actually do something that's going to directly affect people. And, like for us, we directly donated to the Chicago community. And, Chris is very knowledgeable of, organizations that, were worthy of our donations. And, I think it was really cool that, not only us, but other bands just were able to contribute to that cause. And, like Chris said, the fight still goes on. And I think, hopefully after, things settle down, we start to see some real change from, the governments locally, state governments, federal governments, because that's really where we're going to need to see the change, when it's all said and done.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's cool, that obviously it's affected your city, but it's cool that you guys embrace it in a positive manner, But a lot of people can sit here and bitch and whine about this and that, but you guys push forward in a sense to be supportive of a good cause in a productive way, So beyond that, White Sox or Cubs?
You know what? When I'm the only Cubs fan, and when you're growing up, you like.
Really?
Well, I mean, like, no, I don't really like watch sports or anything, but I grew up as a Cubs fan. Like you like what your dad likes.
I mean, if I was from Chicago, I'd be a Cubs fan.
Yeah, I grew up on the northwest suburbs, and it's.
I think what Bo's trying to say is, you're very much indoctrinated.
Yeah.
At a young age, in terms of which team you align with. I think Bo grew up in a Cubs household, whereas James and I grew up in a White Sox household, right? So it becomes very cultural here in the city.
My mom is from Country Club Hills. She's a Sox fan, so it's just like my dad was a Cubs fan. He took me to Wrigley. My grandpa went with us. He's a Cubs fan, so yeah, I grew up as a Cubs fan. My first little league team was the Cubs, and then the Devil Rays. So.
Oh, an expansion team.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you a White Sox fan?
I'm a White Sox fan, which is strange too, because my dad grew up right next to Wrigley. He grew up off Belmont, and so it's so weird that he ended up being a White Sox fan. But I mean, we all would agree that like there's definitely like a working class, versus like
yuppie.
kind of like yuppie, like you'll definitely see a lot more working class people like the White Sox. As opposed to the Cubs, where like the Cubs are like partiers, frat boys, things like that. And I think that's like that culture definitely like made me hate the Cubs way more. I think growing up,
it's very off-brand, both like team colors, team vibe,
blue and red.
To be a Cubs fan, you know what I mean? But I don't know.
My understanding, what a friend told me before, traditionally, like the north side of Chicago is traditionally like a White Sox area, and south side is a Cubs area. Is that correct?
It's the other
Switch.
way around.
Other way around? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think the first time I went to Chicago, I went to Wrigley Field and went to a game, and I was just like, this is so fucking cool. This place is so fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to throw shade on like Wrigley and the history there. It's a really cool ballpark to watch. To watch a game at. It's just obviously like the culture of Cub fandom is just a little cringy.
Wrigley Field is fine. Wrigleyville is like off.
Yeah.
Off.
Next time in Chicago, you guys got to take me to a White Sox game.
Oh, we got you.
All right, we're gonna do a lightning round real quick.
All right.
Metallica or Slayer?
Metallica.
All right. Simpsons or South Park?
Simpsons.
Mexican
Simpsons
food,
for sure.
Mexican food or Italian food?
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh fuck. I gotta say Mexican. We're drinking Topo Chico with lime, right? I gotta.
Chris, what's the answer?
Okay.
it's different for Chris.
All right. my
Dude,
my
don't disrespect
heritage.
your culture, man.
Yeah,
Dude,
his-
my hair. Hopefully, my mom doesn't see this, but I'm gonna have to go with Mexican food. Honestly,
you eat it more often for
I
sure.
definitely eat it more often. And I come from a very Italian family, off the boat, what have you. And I can honestly side
that
with
horn
Mexican
off,
food.
dude.
Yeah.
Take that horn off right now.
I applaud you, and you don't have to show this to your mom. So
Yeah. James, how about you?
you said Mexican food off
He
the
said
top.
Oh, no, I
dude,
said Mexican.
out the gate. He went
Wow.
Mexican.
Okay. That's surprising. But
Dude,
okay.
here's the thing. Those are my top two, but like,
Yeah.
Same.
I mean, I can't eat like chicken parm every day, but I can eat a steak burrito with avocado every day.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
All right, football or basketball?
I mean, my stomach don't like it.
Basketball.
for me.
Basketball for sure.
Basketball.
And
for
I don't
sure.
even, again, I'm not like a sports guy, but I can watch basketball anytime.
Yeah, basketball.
James, are you a football or
I
basketball?
mean,
What's that? I'm basketball all the way.
Respect.
we grew up during the Jordan era. You know,
right.
It's-
We grew up in Chicago
Yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you guys watched that documentary on him? On
fuck
Netflix?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Like
Really good.
definitely like saved us the first quarter of quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another question, James. Why are you so buff, and how do you stay so buff?
Dude, I'm fucking washed now, man. I'm old. I'm 35 now, man. Well, almost 35. But no, I mean, I don't know. I just tell it to everybody. I just consistently work out 3-4 days a week for the last fucking 18 years. And I guess, I mean, I don't know, man. Lately, it's just been tough, though. I mean, mentally during quarantine, you think working out would be good, but I think part of my routine of not going to an actual gym is that's tough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, even though gyms are open, I'm lucky to have, my dad has a gym in his basement. So, he has like squat rack and all these weights, punching bag, but, it sucks. Like, it's like going into a fucking cave. It's like, it's hard to muster up the courage to go down there some days, but I don't know. Honestly, I just I don't want to be unhealthy, and I don't want to look. Because now, I mean, if I lose my muscles now, people will be like, see, he was on steroids.
So,
When Harm's Way does a reunion show when I'm 50, I want people to be like, oh yeah, guy still looks good. Still looks good.
so we found out you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the fans.
Yeah,
That's true. It's all about the fans. Everything's about the fans.
One of a Harm's Way tidbit in our first LP in Reality Approaches, in the liner notes, it says thanks to like friends, family, and all our fans. And this was like no one had heard of us. We didn't have fans.
we probably had 6 fans
Yeah.
at that point.
all our fans.
Well,
We still have 6 fans.
6 people are gonna watch this.
well, I miss you guys, man. I hope you guys are doing well. But before we go, any shout outs? And also started this thing. Anybody want to say fuck you to? Beef hour, dude. Talk some shit.
Yeah.
I think we're the least shit talking band that has ever existed. I don't even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
I would say shout out to Nick and Casey, who obviously aren't here, who are very much
Yeah.
Shout out
huge
to
parts
Nick
of
and
this
Casey.
band. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're up in, like Isabel mentioned earlier, they're up in Milwaukee quarantining, doing the right thing right now. But yeah, we miss them.
and fuck you to Nick and Casey for not being down here,
Yeah.
writing the record with us,
Fuck
and
yeah.
being on this interview with us. Yeah, for sure.
Any shout outs? Any other shout outs, James?
I mean, I know this is lame, but I'm going to shout out my girlfriend because she just went through surgery. She had to get radiation, so she's recovering. So let's hope for a speedy recovery. Shout out to my dad. My dad, he keeps asking. He's like, when's Harm's Way playing again? He's like, we need another album. And I'm like, man, there's no fucking shows.
Like, Dad, what are you fucking
So he's trying to put. He keeps saying we need to do a live stream show,
Yo,
but
I'll fly out to Chicago and make it happen. You can tell
Let's
me.
do it. Let's
all
go.
right, I'm down. Let's do it.
All right, we'll get it in the works. Anyways, shout out to Harm's Way. I fucking love you guys. I miss you guys. Keep your heads up, and thanks for joining us, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
thanks,
Yeah,
Nate.
thank you,
Peace
man.
out, guys.
That was fun.
Laters.